Welcome in Delmia Autumns. In this demo, you are in a factory producing gearboxes and clutches. Let's start with the first screen that shows the demand management, the material Gantt chart. The screen is divided in two parts, the left margin, where you can see your finished products by line and information about them in columns. Just so you know, the columns displayed are customizable. The main screen displays the total requirements by week of your finished product. This planning example shows 4 months horizon planning for 5 finished goods. Now we'll focus on one finished product, gearbox number 4, and see how Delmia Autumns is taking your requirements into account, such as forecast and customer orders, to generate a master production schedule based on genetic rules and stock policy. So I just changed the screen to go on one specific item, gearbox number 4. This screen is showing the different steps that Delmia Autumns follows to generate a master production schedule. It starts with initial requirement and ends with the stock cover in days. The first two lines are showing how Delmia Autumns is integrating your requirements. The first one is the initial requirement, like forecast. And then, in the second line, you will integrate customer orders. Based on these two requirements types, Delmia Autumns will validate the requirements thanks to netting rules. Let's see what kind of netting rules is used in your case. For this finished product, you can see that you are using residual forecast plus orders netting rule. You can also see that you are in a dynamic stock cover policy, where you have a target stock cover of 14 days with a maximum of 21 days and a minimum of 7 days. Delmia Autumns can also get your policies, such as your minimum quantity to produce a work order, as well as your incremental quantity to produce. When Delmia Autumns has interpreted all customer orders and forecasts to calculate the total requirement, it will be able, in line with the stock policy, to generate work order for your master production schedule. You can then display a work order Gantt chart in order to see which work order have to be produced and when. On the left margin, you have information about all work order related to gearbox number 4, ID, designation, routing, series, and on the main screen you can see this work order positioned on the Gantt chart. The green triangle represents the earliest start date and the red triangle the customer due date. If you want to see which components are required and plan to produce gearbox 4 for week number 9, for example, you can highlight the different levels of BOM. So here you see at a glance that for gearbox number 4, you actually need to produce 2 semi-finished products, assembled only here in green and another one in blue here. You can also see the next level of BOM. The primary parts needed to produce this sub-assembly, the shaft and the pinion here. Delmia Autumns is synchronizing all the bill of material levels in one loop, meaning that you will always have a realistic and feasible planning. Every hazard that occurs on a work order will be applied on the whole chain. Let's take an example of this network. If this work order here is postponed, all linked work order will be moved accordingly to respect these BOM links. And the chart is dynamically calculated. This allows to eliminate all kinds of shortage or semi-finished products. Delmia Autumns is dynamic. It means that each time you modify information, Delmia Autumns is sequencing the whole planning, and tables, as you see here, are updated. As a result, Delmia Autumns will be able to provide you with a projection of your stock. If I choose this one, for example, for gearbox number 4, it's dynamically calculated based on the current work order planning. It allows you to perform analysis to master demand management. In addition, you can display quickly, as I did, graphical chart and visualize the stock cover projection. Here you are in what we call a capacity requirement planning. In this screen, you can make a load versus capacity analysis. The left margin is displaying the list of our resources. You can display either the aggregated or detailed resources in order to have a macro or detailed view of your load capacity. You can do it by grouping, section, machine, or plants. On the main screen, you have the percentage of the load versus capacity displayed in weekly bucket. This time horizon is fully configurable. You can display it in days, in weeks, in months, and even into a variable scale. You can also display other data such as capacity, the load, or capacity minus load, which is the remaining capacity. In this screen, Daniel Items allows you to highlight with color alerts when you are overloaded. The different colors are customizable. You can see on the screen that between 80 and 100% it's in orange, and above 100% it's in red. For instance, on the furnace, you can easily identify a bottleneck in the future weeks because you are above 100%. It's our starting point to take decisions in order to get a realistic plan. You can make changes manually, for example by changing capacity, or move load from one period to another. You can also use the automatic load leveling engine and use the power of Daniel Items in order to have the best fitted MPS. So you will answer the question, how to react when there is an overload? First, we will try to move the load. And to move the load, we first move a load from one period to another one. As you can see on this week, number 7, the machine milling 1 is overloaded by 12%. So if you click on this bucket, you can see the list of the work orders that are generating the overload thanks to the column cumulative load in percentage. And you can sort the work order according to this column. Once you have flagged the work order that are generating the overload, you can filter them directly in this window and then display in the bottom of the screen by clicking the button. So here you can see which work order are generating the overload for week 7. The red triangle is indicating the customer due date. So what you can see is that week 8 is not fully loaded, and then you still have some free capacity to add some load. So let's move this work order from week 7 to week 8. And you see that the overload has decreased. You also have another way to deal with overload. On week 6, you can see that there will be an overload of 25%. Let's select the work order that are generating this overload. You cannot move the overload for next week without generating an overload of week 7, for example for these 2 work orders here. However, you can choose to move this operation from one resource to another. So when you click on the operation that you want to move, then your items highlights the resources that are eligible to handle your operation and prevent you to move it on a wrong machine. If you try to move the operation, as I did, you'll be warned that it's not a usable machine. So let's move the operation on milling 2. Here you can see that items is dynamically calculated. So if I just move the other load, then I can resolve this bottleneck by moving all the load to milling 2. If you cannot find solutions by moving load, you can also try to modify the capacity. Let's simulate capacity increase on the furnaces. They are very overloaded. On the bottom of the screen, the capacity of my different machines. And I will now focus on the furnace. So I will just start with the first week. I'm overloaded by 4%. In Daniel items, when we want to change the capacity, it's based on the number of copies. It means how many resources do we have, the number of working hours per period, and the efficiency. For example, it can be the OEE calculated by the mom. Let's say that this machine will work at 100% for this specific week, and we see that we have solved the issue. Here you see that dynamically you have released some capacity and you have reduced the number of overloaded weeks. Another possibility is also to change the number of resources. Let's say that we have a furnace that is only used and only started for emergency purpose. Let's say that I have 9 machines. And you can see that dynamically you have released again some capacity and you have no more overload. The further we plan, the better you can anticipate the load, size the capacities, and fulfill customer requirements. Now we'll focus on the second way to handle overload, the automatic way. One of the biggest strengths of Daimler Autemps is its load leveling engine. It allows you to balance underload and overload in your finite capacity planning. Let's have a look at some settings of the automatic load leveling engine. So first, you can see that you can use it in a daily, weekly, or monthly bucket. Also, something very interesting here is that you can run the load leveling engine without generating any delay. That can be defined at different levels. For example, here it's the global level, but you can also define that at the item, work order, or operation level. Let's do a first simulation with the delay control option activated. I will launch the load leveling engine, and I can see that everything is not load leveled at 100%. It means the optimization engine has found a trade-off in order to load level the capacity below 100%. However, some weeks, like 13 and 15, are still have overload because Daimler Autemps try to load level, but the customer's deadline is too close. Let's have a closer look at week 13. First, I put again a work order Gantt chart. I click on week 13. I select my overload. And I can see this operation was positioned on week 13. But if you postpone it to week 14, you will get an overload. As well because you have a load of 100% on week 14. And if you try to move it to week 15 or later, you will be late if you look at this red triangle. That's why Daimler Autemps has stopped postponing it and generated an overload in order to alert instead of delaying orders. Let's now rerun a load leveling engine, allowing the generation of delay. For example, I will just remove this option here. I will launch a load leveling. And as a result, you will generate a full finite capacity planning without any overload. However, you did produce some work order late, and you can see all these work order in this list. You can also have some alerts about some global performance indicator like service rate, and see directly that Autemps has generated some delays due to the full finite capacity. Now that you have a planning at finite capacity, you can have a look at the available to promise and see which products will be delayed. So I go back to my material chart. On the screen, you have the list of your finished products, and on the main screen, the projected stock cover in weekly buckets. This screen gives us color alerts about our stock level. For instance, in yellow, you are under the minimum stock cover, and in red, you are under 0, which means that you are stocked out. For example, if I take the gearbox 4, I can say here that I am under the minimum stock cover. An interesting analysis here will be to sort the finished products by stock out date in order to see which one will be stock out and when. So we can take and analyze stock out date and see that the first one that will be stock out will be the gearbox 4. You can also precisely see which work order will be delayed in a work order Gantt chart. If I put this one and I say that I want to see with the gearbox 5, I can see here that for these 3 work orders they will be delayed because they are after their due date. That's why we have stock out on this specific week, number 7. Delaying production might be from time to time necessary, as the capacity cannot always be increased. You can imagine, it's easier to negotiate the delivery date for next month rather than next week or tomorrow. With Delmia Autumns, you can also perform some simulation in order to see if you are able to produce in time a new customer order. It's what we call capable to promise. Let's simulate a new customer request. Can you deliver an emergency, a finished product that needs to be produced? To simulate that, you can create a new work order. Directly in the planning, you can create the customer demand for 2000 gearbox number 4 with requested production dates between the 15th and the 28th of February. To do that, I can create an order on the gearbox 4. I will say I want 2000 between the 15th and the 28th of February. I'll click on Insert, and then I see here my work order. Now what is powerful in Delmia Autumns is that you can use the automatic leveling engine to load level specifically this work order. I will choose leveling this work order. In this case, you can see if you have a capacity to produce it in time without changing your current planning. As you can see here, you will not be able to deliver the customer order before the requested deadline, taking into account our load and current capacity. You can also go more in detail with Delmia Autumns and perform detailed scheduling with Production Scheduler engine. It's mainly used for short-term optimization. The objective is to find the right sequence on each machine for all operations. You are looking here for the next 2 weeks in the machine Gantt chart, which displays the sequence of each machine over the time. On the main screen, the shaded area is representing the time when the machine is not working, so basically during weekend or nights. Let's highlight all of the operations needed to produce this finished product. I just click on this one, and then I see all operations needed to produce the finished product until the packing machine. In Delmia Autumns, all levels of the bill of material are synchronized in one loop. It means, based on the requirements, Autumns is generating links between the different levels of the BOM, and these links are taken into account in the scheduling in order to eliminate missing parts. For example, if the production of the semi-finished product is postponed due to a quality control issue, and you move this operation forward in 2 weeks, you see that Delmia Autumns keeps the synchronization of the different operations and recalculates dynamically the end date of the last operations. Let's have a look on the setup times. Delmia Autumns also calculates and optimizes dynamically setup times. If you look at the different operations that are represented with different colors, you can see small rectangles like here attached to operations. They represent the changeover time between item parameters. If I double click on it, for example, I can see I can change my while type from this value to this value, and the finish type from this value to this value. These times here I dynamically calculated based on the sequence of operation. Let's see how we can take into account unexpected events. Delmia Autumns is a simulation tool which can take into account unexpected events that occur on the shop floor. What will happen if the machine milling 1 is down for the first week of the production can be easily simulated by integrating this breakdown in the resource calendar for the first week. I will insert this breakdown on the machine to say that on the milling 1 it will be closed the first week. So I say that it will be closed. Once I have done, Autumns we calculate dynamically the new end date of all operations. All operations were postponed, and I can see which work order has been delayed. So now you have two choices. You can adapt manually the sequence and resource application, or use the scheduler engine to find the best solution to meet our goals. Let's start with the interactive way. As you can see, you will move this operation from one resource to another resource. So I can then really change the sequence and define a new plan by moving manually by drag and drop. Or I can use a powerful engine in order to take into consideration this breakdown and to reschedule on different resources or in another sequence. So I just start an optimization and then Autumn find a new plan optimized for your plans. If you want to go more in detail, then your Autumns can also display on a particular machine the sequence of the different operations as a Gantt. So I can just, for example, say that I want to see the milling 2 machine in detail. So I will see all operation, and I can have, if I want, also a table in the lower part where the list of operations represents the sequence. Excel-like, convenient for user working on one single or just few machines. Export to the list is also available. You can move operations directly in this list, and you can see that your Gantt is dynamically updated. So I just change the order of the green and the blue orders. If I change here, I can see that it changed in my Gantt chart. Let's move on raw material analysis. In the current situation, you can see the consumption of the different raw materials over time, and therefore analyze if you have some raw material shortage. You can include the current level of stock, for example here, on your raw material, and all your raw material purchase. For example here, I will have a replenishment. In order to have the more realistic view, I can also see which order on my plan is impacted with this color here. For instance, the screen below is showing the list of raw material. You can display in the project stock and identify that you have a shortage on this raw material the whole week. It's in dark red, that means you are below the supplier lead time. If I move within time, I can see that if I have a red color like that, it means that you are above the supplier lead time and you will avoid this shortage if you send a purchase requirement today. Then your items is also included in the labor management. So if your operations need specific skills to work, you can visualize the labor load per day to take decisions about hiring people or assign them to different lines. In the screen below, you can see that you group people by skill. So you have operators, setters. On the day in red, you have a capacity of 5. For a load of 6, you can decide to move or to increase the capacity or to take as a constraint the number of people you have. Let's activate this constraint at finite capacity. The operations are resequenced automatically so you can easily do simulation at finite capacity.